Timon of Athens by William Shakespeare, sort of the black sheep of Shakespeare's oeuvre. This is possibly his least popular play, or certainly among his least popular plays. It was never staged during his lifetime. It was published, but was not performed until many years later. However, despite this play being so unpopular in comparison to Shakespeare's other works, it nonetheless still has some defenders, and some pretty high profile defenders at that. Herman Melville, perhaps, being foremost among them. Melville held Timon of Athens to be one of Shakespeare's most profound works. One of his works that had the greatest ability to grab the reader or the viewer and shake them and lay bare perhaps some aspects of reality for them to behold. And it is because of that that I wanted to read this. And now, having read Timon of Athens, I can say, for one, that I am very, very glad that I did. And another thing I can say is that I think Herman Melville was spot on in his assessment of this play. Timon of Athens is an absolute masterpiece. It may not be as well known as Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet, but it really should be, in my opinion, and I think it's sad that it isn't. So, what is Timon of Athens about? Well, it is based on an alleged historical figure, that is, the titular Timon. If you don't know, nearly all of Shakespeare's tragedies, at least, were based, however loosely, on pre existing stories or historical figures or supposed historical figures. And Timon of Athens is such a one. The historical Timon was supposed to have lived during the Peloponnesian War, and he was renowned apparently for his misanthropy, that is, his hatred for humanity. And Shakespeare has taken this obscure historical figure and crafted an incredibly powerful tragedy around him, and it is possibly my favorite Shakespeare play now. I think it may have upset Hamlet to now be my favorite work of William Shakespeare. That's how much I like this, and that's how much I respected this, because this is Shakespeare's dimmest work. And when I say dim, I mean it is dim in its outlook. It takes a very, very dim view of humanity. And I can only assume that maybe that's partly why it is so unpopular, because it says some really harsh things that maybe people don't really want to hear so much as, the love story of Romeo and Juliet or what have you. But this play is definitely probably his bleakest work, I would say. But I loved it. I absolutely did. So the story of Timon of Athens is remarkably simple, but Shakespeare is able to get a lot of miles out of it. Timon is a wealthy, well-to-do citizen of Athens who likes to spread the love around. He throws lots of lavish parties. He likes to bequeath upon his various friends expensive gifts, and he's really kind of frivolous with his money, too frivolous. And he squanders it on everybody around him, basically, regardless of whether they need it or not. But then one day he squanders too much and he runs out of money and he is up to his neck in debt. So he says, what I'll do is I will send out messages to all the people that I have given to in the past so freely and so generously, and I will ask them to do the same to me. I will ask them to help me out in my time of need as I did to them. And so he sends out his servants to go collect some income off of the people that he has helped out in the past, and every single one of them says, nope, can't help you, goodbye. And so Timon is confronted with a very bleak aspect of humanity, and subsequently he kind of goes off the deep end, but understandably so. The central theme of this play is misanthropy, the hatred and scorn for humanity. In fact, the word Timonist is a synonym for misanthropist, which takes its root word from the name of the titular character in this play, because that is how strongly Timon hates humanity. He has been betrayed by everyone around him, but he sees now that there is an aspect to the human character that he was not hitherto aware of, and a rather sorry aspect at that. And he subsequently runs off because now he has nothing, and he runs away into the woods, and he lives in a cave and eats roots and spends his time making soliloquies about how much he hates humanity and wishes that everyone would just piss off and die. Until one day, a former acquaintance of his, Alcibiades, and Alcibiades is actually a real historical figure as well, a pretty prominent figure in the Peloponnesian War, I believe, and he is about to march on Athens due to being recently banished. And Timon, wouldn't you know it, happens to find some buried gold out near his cave, and he gives it to Alcibiades in the hopes that he will destroy Athens because that's how much he hates the place that has revealed to him the low and base nature of humanity. But he also still hates Alcibiades, and he's like, I'll give you the gold, but I still think you're shit, and I hope you die. And then that's kind of just how the play ends. Timon dies, and that's kind of it. There is no reconciliation here. There is no turnaround. Timon never reverses his outlook on humanity. It is just abject misanthropy all the way through, and it ends pretty bleakly. Not so much because anything overly tragic happens. I mean, Timon does die, but it's tragic and bleak rather because of what it says about humanity and what it says about people. And this is why Shakespeare is still important, because I'm sure you know as well as I know that people are still exactly like they were as portrayed in this play. People, to quote Slipknot, people equal shit. You can help them all day long, but then when the chips are down for you, they ain't got time. They cannot be bothered. And that's what happens to Timon, and that's why he comes to despise humanity. And again, there is no reconciliation. It ends with that message. And yeah, this is not really a happy play, but man, is it powerful. Now, it is important to note that this play can be interpreted a couple different ways, and it's interesting to see how that causes the level of tragedy here to fluctuate depending on how you view it. You can view the character of Timon in two different ways. You can view him as a frivolous spendthrift who just squanders his money and spends it, goes through it like water on his douchebag, worthless friends, just because he wants to buy his friends and he just wants to, appear like he's got it all, and he's just trying to, make it rain, so they say. That's one way to interpret it. However, another way you can interpret it, and the way that I kind of chose to as I was reading it, is that Timon is actually very good-hearted. Timon spreads his wealth around and he shares his fortune with others, not because he's trying to buy friends or because he just, like I said, wants to make it rain, but rather because he actually wants to help people and he actually has a heart of gold and he is actually that good. And it becomes far, far more tragic if you view it that way, because we see the crumbling of virtue in this character because it is not rewarded. And that is a hard takeaway from this play, is that virtue very often, in fact more often than not probably, is not rewarded, or at least not by other people. Because if you do interpret it that way, it hurts, like it really does. Because if you view it as that Timon is just honestly trying to help everybody, and he just is really that good, and then how they just turn their backs on him and they're like, nah, don't bother me, I'm done. It's just like, damn, that stings. And that's why this work is so powerful, or at least it was to me. And I think it lends itself to a greater sense of impact that way, if you instead of if you view it as Timon is just kind of like a playboy that just spreads the love around. I think that the other way is the optimal way to read it, but there probably is no right way to read this. But the play is not perfect, and though I said this may be my favorite Shakespeare work, I will acknowledge that it does have some flaws. There's a lot more prose in this than your average Shakespeare play, because the majority of Shakespeare's tragedies, at least, are written predominantly in verse, or at least for the noble characters or the main characters, with prose being used for the commoners and the lower class people and the peripheral characters. But this does have a lot of verse in it, but it does also have a lot of prose. And for one, the soliloquies aren't quite as memorable as some of Shakespeare's others. There is no to be or not to be in this. There is no tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And mainly the what soliloquies we have here are just an angry, bitter man out in the woods eating roots, lamenting how shitty humanity is and how much he hates humanity. And I mean, it's not very lofty. It's very bitter and cynical. And that also brings me to another character in this play, the cynicism of Apomantus. And Apomantus is kind of the foil to Timon in this work. So early on in the play, and by the way, this work is incredibly well paced. It's not very long, but every scene is utilized very well, and it all builds um, pretty impeccably to its denouement. And so I don't have any complaints in the pacing. It's not one of his longest, but it feels very tight. It's not too short either. But early in the play, as Timon is throwing a party in which he is lavishing his friends with gifts and feasts and what have you, there's a character who enters called Apomantus, and Apomantus is a cynic, and he seems to delight in provoking Timon and saying, "You're wasting your money on these people, on these knaves," as he calls them, because they don't really appreciate it and they don't really appreciate you, and they're just going to milk you dry. And when you don't have anything, they won't be around. But Timon doesn't want to hear that, or he doesn't see the truth in that because he's never been exposed to the lower, more ignoble side of humanity. But after his conversion to staunch misanthrope, after the halfway mark, he comes to agree and align himself with Apomantus's viewpoint. And you have this scene where they trade barbs in the wilderness when Appomantus goes to see Timon out in the woods. And he's like, "People have been telling me that you're just kind of copying my style now." And then they just insult each other for pages on end, which is very funny to read. But it's interesting because uh, Shakespeare's plays often kind of employ the fool character, like King Lear has the fool character who is that kind of outside character who is kind of looked down on by the other cast members, but who speaks truth nonetheless, and that is the role of Appomantus in Timon. No one really likes him because he's an asshole, but he is a very clear-seeing asshole, and Timon eventually comes to see the truth of what he told him. Now, this play can also kind of be taken in different ways, I think. The ultimate conclusions of this play can be kind of taken in different ways. For example, Karl Marx actually wrote quite a bit about Timon of Athens in one of his works. Also in Capital, I believe he made some references to Timon in Capital. And he uses the play as kind of a demonstration of the corruptive influence of money and how it brings out the worst in people. And so I think you can kind of take this play in that kind of direction. But I think you can also just as effectively take this play in the complete opposite direction. That is just to say, F the world, turn your back on humanity because they ain't worth it, and they don't care about anybody but themselves, because that kind of is, or seems to be all too often how people behave. They're like the one hump camel. They're looking out for number one. So I just think you can kind of take the conclusions that this play reaches and go in kind of different directions with them. And that is really a hallmark of a great work, is that it lends itself to so many differing interpretations. And while I understand why this play isn't one of Shakespeare's most popular, because it's really bleak and dim in its outlook, and it's not very cheery, and there is no ultimate reconciliation or triumph. It nonetheless is powerful, and I think it may be one of his most valuable plays because this still rings true today. As I said, you know it as well as I know it. People equal shit, to quote Slipknot again. They were back then, they still are, and I think if you haven't been burned like Timon is in this play, you really ought to give this play a read because it might save you a burning. Because, as I said, this story uh, rings just as true now as it did then. And that is also a hallmark of a really great work. So I really do think that Timon of Athens is probably now my favorite work of Shakespeare despite lacking any eminently quotable lines or grand, lofty soliloquies. It still just packs such a punch, and I absolutely love it. I'm giving this an A plus. I think this is one of Shakespeare's best works and a criminally underrated play as well. So, Timon of Athens by William Shakespeare. Have you read Timon of Athens? If you have, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it, whether you have agreed or disagreed with anything that I have said about it here today. If you have not read Timon of Athens, I would highly recommend that you do. I can really recommend this work. I think that this is a necessary read, not only for those interested in Shakespeare, but or classics, but just for anybody in general, because this play says some things that everybody kind of really needs to hear. And so I think its value has not diminished in the slightest over the years. And as always, if you have enjoyed anything you've seen or heard here today, remember to hit that like button, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.